This is Cerebral Cinema, movies of the mind. Pretty Little Fliers, Magic Market Mysteries #1, a cozy witch mystery, written by Aaron Johnson.
Chapter 1, The Reading.
I'm throwing up on her bed because she dresses me in ugly sweaters.
The white cat blinked at me, then returned to licking the long, wispy fur on its front paw. I brought a fist to my mouth to hide my grin. Yes, what is it? His owner, the prim older lady who sat across the table from me, leaned forward.
Do you know what's wrong with my Mr. Floofy?
She lowered the flowery handkerchief she'd been holding to her nose. I tried not to roll my eyes. Yeah, my trash needed to be taken out, weeks ago, and the smells of sewer and street food wafting in from the noisy street below weren't doing my apartment any favors, but it wasn't that bad. I straightened and brought my fingers to my temples. Yes, I'm getting something. I dipped my face close to the cat's so the woman wouldn't overhear me and muttered out of the corner of my mouth. Meow. Would you prefer different styles, or...? The cat narrowed his lime-green eyes at me and let out a low yowl.
No sweaters at all, you dolt. No clothes. I'm a cat, for rat's sake. Treat me with some dignity.
I glared right back at him. Treat me with some dignity, or I'll tell her you despise tuna treats. He flattened his ears and hissed at me. I sat straighter and waved my hands over the crystal ball before me. Gold stars and moons covered the blue velvet tablecloth below it. It was all part of the act. A clump of white fur blew over the fabric like a tumbleweed. Great, now I'd have to do laundry. The woman's wide eyes darted from the crystal to my face.
What do you see?
I abruptly stopped waving my hands and splayed my palms. Yeah, Mr. Floofy's not into wearing clothes. I thumbed at the cat on the table beside me. He sported a mint green gingham bonnet and cape. In my professional psychic opinion, if you stop dressing him up, the vomit will stop also. The lady's expression grew hard and closed. She huffed, rose to her feet, and snatched her cat up off the table.
Oh, why, I never. I should have known you were a fraud.
She huffed again as she swept her scowl over my humble abode.
Ugh, me, in a dump like this. I don't know how you ever fooled me.
She adjusted the cat in her arms and shrugged her purse strap higher on her shoulder.
Floofy loves those sweaters. I'm leaving.
I shoved back from the table and leapt to my feet. No, she couldn't leave. I was way behind in my rent, and she was my first client, and snakes, I couldn't even think of the last one I'd had. My apartment/business was located down a narrow side alley off the main drag of the Dark Moon Night Market. I didn't get a lot of foot traffic. Even if I had, though, I doubted business would be booming. On the magical island of Bijou-Mer, just off the coast of Yumen, France, legit psychics and seers abounded. But somehow most folk didn't believe a pet psychic was a real thing. Probably because it wasn't. They assumed I was lying about my abilities, which made sense, because I was. The lady marched toward the beaded curtain that led to the stairs out.
Ugh!
She waved a fly away from her face. The little guy flew in, swooping circles, humming to himself.
Busy, 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 busy. Flying around is lots of fun.
Sans flies were so insane. I glanced past the woman to what passed for my living room. It was just a threadbare couch in the middle of the shabby room, with my Walkman resting on one of the torn cushions. I itched to put on my headphones and drown out the fly, the daddy longlegs catching gnats above the windows, the cockroaches chatting and laughing behind the wall, and the rats having a family reunion in the ceiling. That was the problem. Well, one of them. With being able to speak with animals, I also had to listen to them. There was no white noise in my world, no silence. Seagulls didn't caw anymore, they shouted at each other. Crickets didn't chirp, they bragged. The world was a noisy, chatty place, and the only way I could cope was by drowning it all out with some sweet, sweet tunes. Well, Mostly ambient rain sounds, but sometimes tunes. But relief would have to wait. Rent and food money were top priority. I bit the inside of my cheek. From top defense lawyer to this. Ah, there was that familiar ache in my core. I sighed and swallowed what little was left of my dignity. Wait, I'm getting something else. I was confused by Fluffy's strong feelings. The woman shifted the big cat in the bonnet to her other arm and paused just in front of the beaded curtain. Her eyes remained hard, her lips a tight line, but at least she stopped. Yes, it was a mistake. I nodded and rubbed my temples. Fluffy's got such strong feelings, not of hate, but of love for those luxurious and fashionable outfits you style him in. The woman blinked and took a few steps back toward me.
Meow. What are you telling her?
Yes, I see it now. I sank back down into my chair and the woman edged closer. The vomit stems from a traumatic incident Mr. Fluffy had as a kitten. The woman's eyes widened, and she kept them on me as she slid her purse from her arm and sank back down into the wobbly chair across from me.
Go on.
I pressed my eyes shut tight to keep from rolling them. Every time. Man, people were suckers for sob stories about their pets. What should I go with this time? Past life expectations from when he was a pharaoh's cat? Or confidence issues from being the runt of the litter and feeling unwanted? I peeled an eye open. Judging by the size of Mr. Fluffy, I wasn't sure the runt one would be believable. I opened my mouth, about to go with the Egypt thing, when the door banged open downstairs, the bell above it tinkling. I looked to my left, frowning, as heavy footsteps clomped quickly up the stairs. I lifted my chin. Hey, I'm with a client. Come back later. What were the chances I'd get two in one night?
Ow!
I arched a brow. The narrow staircase had a surprisingly low ceiling. Bet this guy hit his head. Go away! The footsteps started up again. A moment later, a man burst through the beaded curtain, carrying an enormous dog in his arms. The older woman screamed and jumped to her feet, clutching Mr. Fluffy to her chest. The cat arched its back and hissed at the limp German shepherd in the man's arms. Oh, snakes. This wasn't just a man. It was a man sporting the blue and gold uniform of the Bijou police force. My stomach dropped and I shoved away from the table, toppling my chair backward. I raised my hands. I didn't do it. The officer's panicked face softened, and for the briefest moment he looked like he was about to laugh.
Huh?
He shook himself, and his thick brows pinched together again. The whites showed all around his blue eyes, which bore into me.
My dog's dying!
His eyes flickered to the huge dog, foam dripping from its lips.
I need your help.
This has been Pretty Little Fliers, written by Aaron Johnson, performed by the following: Alicia Lilly as Jolene, Victoria Kochanek as the old lady, David Botcher as the officer, Sheena Van Cott as Mr. Floofy, Kayla Cummins Jensen as the Fly. Copyright all by Aaron Johnson. Production copyright by Aaron Johnson. Cerebral Cinema hopes you have enjoyed this movie of the mind.
A seedy business. A high-velocity homicide. Can one witch get the killer to squawk while flying under the radar? Jolene Hartgrave is trying to pay the bills as a fake pet psychic while keeping her secret magic-stealing curse on the down low. But tensions fly high when she witnesses a murder next door, and her life goes from sad and lame to police consultant fame. She teams up with a super hot Boy Scout of a cop and his sassy, lie-sniffing dog to solve the case. But can she get a confession without spilling her own secret?